In September 1666, one of the most devastating disasters in English history swept through the city of London. Known as the Great Fire of London, the blaze destroyed thousands of homes, changed the shape of the city forever, and became one of the most famous events in British history. The story begins in the early hours of Sunday, September 2nd, 1666. At around 1 o'clock in the morning, a fire broke out in a bakery on Pudding Lane owned by a baker named Thomas Farriner. Farriner worked for King Charles II, supplying bread to the Royal Navy. Historians believe the fire began when sparks from the bakery oven were not fully extinguished before the family went to sleep. At first, the fire did not seem unusual. Fires were common in 17th century London. Houses were built mostly from wood and packed tightly together along narrow streets. Many buildings had overhanging upper floors that nearly touched above the roads. Add strong winds, dry weather, candles, fireplaces, and open flames, and London was almost like a giant pile of kindling waiting to burn. The Farriner family escaped through an upstairs window, but one servant was trapped inside and became the first known victim of the fire. Soon, flames spread rapidly from house to house. The wind pushed the fire westward through the city. People woke to the smell of smoke and the sound of church bells ringing in alarm. Residents rushed outside carrying belongings, furniture, and food. Some loaded carts and wheelbarrows, others fled by boat along the River Thames. The Lord Mayor of London at the time, Thomas Bloodworth, seriously underestimated the danger. One common method of stopping fires was to pull down buildings to create fire breaks, open gaps that could stop flames from spreading. But Bloodworth hesitated to order homes destroyed, partly because property owners would demand compensation. According to reports, he dismissed the blaze by saying that a woman could piss it out. That hesitation proved disastrous. By Sunday afternoon, the fire was completely out of control. Fierce winds carried burning embers through the air, starting new fires far ahead of the main blaze. Warehouses along the Thames were filled with oil, coal, timber, tar, rope, and alcohol, which caused explosions and huge fireballs. Panic spread across London. Thousands of people abandoned their homes. Streets became jammed with carts, animals, and crowds trying to escape. Many sought refuge in open spaces like Moorfields or attempted to cross the river. Valuable possessions were piled in fields outside the city walls. Some people buried money and treasures underground to protect them. King Charles II quickly realized the danger was far greater than city officials understood. He personally became involved in organizing firefighting efforts. Along with his brother, James II, he ordered soldiers and workers to demolish buildings to slow the spread, but the fire kept advancing. On Monday, September 3rd, the flames tore through the heart of medieval London. Entire streets vanished in smoke and ash. The heat became so intense that people reported stone walls cracking and metal melting. Firestorms created powerful winds of their own, pulling flames across the city faster than anyone could control. One of the most famous buildings threatened was St. Paul's Cathedral. At the time, the cathedral was over 600 years old and surrounded by wooden scaffolding. Because repairs were underway, many citizens believed its thick stone walls would keep it safe, so they stored books, furniture, and possessions inside. They were wrong. By Tuesday night, the cathedral caught fire. Witnesses described molten lead pouring from the roof like rivers. The enormous structure collapsed in flames, and the destruction shocked the entire city. The fire continued for 4 terrifying days. By Wednesday, much of London had been destroyed. Finally, the winds began to weaken, and the use of large fire breaks slowed the blaze. Gunpowder was used to blow up buildings in the fire's path, creating gaps the flames could not cross. On Thursday, September 6th, the fire was finally brought under control. The damage was catastrophic. Around 13,000 houses had been destroyed, along with churches, shops, prisons, and government buildings. More than 80% of the old medieval city was gone. Tens of thousands of people were left homeless. Surprisingly, official records listed only a small number of deaths. However, historians today believe the true death toll was probably much higher. Poor people and victims burned beyond recognition may never have been counted. The fire came only 1 year after another disaster struck London, the outbreak of Great Plague of London in 1665. Many people believed the city was cursed or being punished by God. After the fire, rebuilding London became a massive challenge. Architects and planners proposed bold new designs with wide boulevards and organized streets similar to cities in Europe. One of the most important figures in rebuilding was Christopher Wren. He designed the new St. Paul's Cathedral that still stands today and helped rebuild dozens of churches across the city. Although many ambitious redesigned plans were never fully carried out, London was rebuilt with stronger materials like brick and stone instead of wood. Streets became wider, and building regulations improved safety standards to reduce the risk of another catastrophic fire. The Great Fire also changed firefighting forever. Insurance companies later created some of the first organized fire brigades, leading eventually to modern fire services. Today, the Great Fire of London remains one of the defining moments in the history of London. It destroyed the old medieval city, but it also gave London the opportunity to rebuild and modernize. Near the spot where the fire began stands the Monument to the Great Fire of London, a tall stone column designed by Christopher Wren. It serves as a reminder of the 4 days in 1666, when flames reshaped one of the world's greatest cities forever. And that is the story of the Great Fire of London.